Hello everyone, my name is Ian and you're watching Big Rock Moto. Thanks so much for tuning in, and if you're new here and you like this kind of content, I hope you'll consider subscribing. So here's what we're going to do today. I've owned this KTM 350EXC for the past maybe 12 to 18 months, and I've done a lot of really wonderful modification, upgrades, and changes to it. So if you have one of these bikes, whether it's a 350EXC or a 500EXC, or really any of the modern dual sports, and you're looking to turn it into sort of the ultimate bike and make it the best it could possibly be with some really cool upgrades, then this is the video for you. Now, this is not the first KTM EXC model that I've had. In fact, I've had a number of these, and I have experience setting up these bikes from previous builds, and I've learned a lot that I've applied to this bike, and I really do feel, honestly, that the way this is set up is about as good as you can get one of these bikes. Now, I'm not saying it's cheap, because it's a little bit on the expensive side to do all this stuff, but if you've clicked on this video and you've got this far, I'm guessing that maybe you already own a bike like this, or you're gonna buy one, you want the best dual sport you can get, and budget is not the biggest concern for you. All right, now I have a brief favor to ask. If you're gonna purchase any of the parts that we talk about in this video, please use my affiliate links below. They're gonna be pinned in a comment and in the video description. It's a huge way to support independent motorcycle journalism for this channel to continue, so I really appreciate that. All right, let's get started. So, I'm going to link everything obviously below. A lot of the links are going to go to Rocky Mountain ATV, who I've been working with for a very, very long time, and I trust them very, very much with this kind of stuff. And a few links may go to other websites. So with that, let's start with the bike. So the tires that I'm running on this bike right now, I really, really enjoy them. These are the Tusk Recon hybrid tires. The thing about these tires is they are a knobby tire, but they're a hybrid with sort of trials bike technology. So they have that soft carcass, and they grip on rocks and dirt and loose surfaces. They grip like Velcro, and they conform to the surface. So they don't kind of bounce off rocks and things like a traditional knobby tire would. I run them about 12 PSI thereabouts. I do need to use rim locks, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm a huge fan of these tires. I use the fatty front and then the standard rear size. Since we're talking about the tires and wheels, I also use Tusk rim locks. The bike didn't come with rim locks, and I had them put in, or I should say I put them in. And what that does is when you run the lower pressure, it prevents the tire from spinning on the rim and ripping off your valve stem or your valve core. Now, why not use a tubeless setup? I've tried that. I didn't really like those very much. They were high maintenance. I always had something wrong with them. And bib mooses don't really work for me because I ride on the highway a little bit. So I just stick with heavy duty tubes and rim locks. The other thing I've done with the wheels is I balance them. So because of the rim locks, you need to balance the rims. It provides a smoother ride on a highway so you don't feel the bike bouncing. I use the Nomar spoke weights, and of course, they're linked below. Now, if you're ever caught out riding at night, or maybe night riding is something you enjoy, I like to do it in the summer when it's warm here in California. I've got the Baja designed Squadron Pro XL headlight. This thing is crazy, crazy bright, tons of illumination. It mounts right up, wires in really easily. Is it cheap? No. Is it the best you can get? Yes. So I can highly endorse that product. It's not the first time I've had this on one of my bike builds. All right, let's talk about some of the protection for the bike. If you're gonna really beat a bike like this up, you need to protect it. So a few things. The radiator guards. I've got the Tusk billet radiator guards in orange. They look amazing. They're really cool bling, but they're super strong and protective, and they're a little bit more affordable than some of the other options out there. So they bolted up really easily. I put them on myself. I can highly recommend those. Handguards. I run the Sick-Ass Racing handguards, and the reason is that they play pretty well with my flex bars, which I'll talk about in a second, but they have an integrated turn signal. That's nice because the turn signals are out wide, so you're actually visible in traffic to other cars, unlike the ones that maybe mount on the forks or near your headlight. And they're just a cool integration, and I really like to see that. Some other protection items I have. So I'm running a TM Designworks skid plate, but unfortunately it seems like they don't sell that anymore for this particular year and model. This is a 2022 350EXC, the factory street legal version. So I'm gonna go ahead and recommend you get the AXP. I run the AXP on some other bikes that I have, including my 890, and I really like that. It's a similar heavy duty plastic to this skid plate, and I fully endorse AXP, and Rocky Mountain sells it, and I think it's a great product. So I'm gonna recommend that because this TM Designworks one is not available. Some other protection stuff I've got the Tusk rear brake disc guard. you know, it bolts up really easily. You bolt your caliper to it. It looks cool, but it also provides really meaningful protection so that if a rock kind of grazes near where your rear brake disc is, it's going to hit that protector instead of, you know, cracking or bending or damaging your brake disc. Another item that you could consider protection for the bike and also for yourself is the P3 Carbon Max Coverage header heat shield. So I've burned my riding pants before on a hot exhaust header of dual sports, and I said no more, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I run these P3 heat shields. They bolt up really easily. They look cool and blingy, but they really work and they're lightweight. I know it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's really well worth it. Let's talk about kickstands. The kickstands on these KTMs are notoriously brittle and thin. And in fact, no joke, the last ride I was on in, where were we? South Dakota with my friend Chip. He was riding a bike just like this, and his kickstand snapped off. And then he didn't have a kickstand for the rest of the weekend. So I run the Pro Moto Billet. It's a Fastway Pro Moto Billet kickstand. It's bomb-proof, it mounts up easily, it's super strong. Actually, it's so strong that I'm able to sort of mount the bike in the sort of the cowboy style where I, you know, put my foot and swing my leg over. And I would never do that with a stock kickstand because you'll break it. So I really recommend this. It has a strong spring in it, so it keeps up out of the way. It doesn't flop around when you're in hard terrain. Definitely a great upgrade. In terms of mirrors, I do run the double take mirrors. I run the smaller enduro mirrors, the circular ones. On a lot of my other builds, you've seen the adventure mirrors, which are the wider ones. But I do kind of like having the smaller ones on the dirt bike. Now, they don't have as good a view as the larger adventure mirror, so you can choose which ones you want. And they do buzz a little bit more also than the adventure mirrors, but they're small, they fold out of the way, you can remove them if you want, put them in your pack. And double take mirrors are, I'm not gonna say they're indestructible, but they're pretty strong. Going back to some of the controls that I've got, so I use the Pro Taper pillow top grips. They're super comfortable, soft, kind of squishy, and they help dampen the vibration and the shock from the trail. Really like those. And underneath those, I actually run the Tusk grip heaters. They're a super affordable option. They're like 30 bucks for grip heaters. You wire them in and they get a little switch here. Awesome to keep your hands cold. So you can wear more of a thin dirt bike glove even on cooler days and get away with it with those heated grips. The flex bars. Okay, so the handlebars, that's a big investment to go with the flex bar. I've featured these on other builds. I have them on my 890 as well. I love these handlebars. They're basically like extra suspension for your upper body. So they move in the axis of the front fork. You do notice the difference. They're tunable and adjustable with a tension setting. You can also put different elastomers in there. Super high quality, made in USA product, totally worth it. They just smooth out the whole ride, and over a long day of dual sport riding, they're an absolute game changer. Can't recommend them enough. In order to get them to play nice with handguards, I use the Tusk adapters. Another thing in terms of my sort of controls of the bike, I do run a Scott's steering stabilizer or steering damper. The reason for that is that well, I can't go into all of it, but it dampens the steering for rocks, for sand, for things on the trail that you're hitting. And when you do, you know, dual sport riding, off-road riding, it's a huge benefit. At slow speeds and at high speeds. It really helps you control the bike, reduce fatigue, and it's also a safety feature in case you hit something at high speed. The bars are not gonna go like that and deflect as much. They still will move and deflect, and you can adjust. They have different high speed and low speed circuits in there and a sweep circuit. You can tune it in. I've used some of the cheaper brands like the GPRs and others. I prefer the Scott's because it has all the tunability there should you need it. Highly recommend that. I also have a Scott's on my 890. For storage up front, I don't use a tank bag because I find it really gets in my way off-road. So I've gone to using the handlebar bags. I really like this Tusk bag. It's super affordable, really handy. I keep like some helmet cleaner in here, tire gauge, a multi-tool, a few things like that that you want quick access to without getting into your rear bags. Why don't we just talk about the rear bags now since I mentioned it. These are Mosko Moto Reckless 10. If you're looking for a small, lightweight, compact luggage to carry tools, a tube, some snacks, a first aid kit, stuff like that on your dual sport or adventure bike, these are the best option that you have. I've tried everything else. I like the Giant Loop Mojave a lot. That's also very, very similar to this and very good option. I prefer the Moskos a little bit to that. I've also run the Tusk bags. Those are also good. But if you want the best, the Reckless 10 are where it's at. You can also expand them with other pouches, and they have a beaver tail here where you can put, this is really nice on the back, you could strap like a jacket, if you have a rain jacket or a jacket to put over your jersey in the winter or cold weather rain, you could strap that back here. Super good system, I highly recommend it. For those longer rides, I have an Acerbi 3.1 gallon tank. The bike came with a 2-gallon fuel tank. Now for me, that gave me fuel anxiety because getting around 50 to 60 miles a gallon, which I do get on this bike, 100-mile range is a little bit nerve-wracking for me personally. So this gives me about 150 miles of range, which is enough for any dual sport riding that I do. So recommend that. It takes about an hour to put it on. The hardest part is getting the gas out of your old tank without making a huge mess, transferring the fuel pump over, bolting it on, a couple bolts, put the shrouds back on. Super good addition. All right, let's talk about the Recluse clutch, one of the most expensive modifications on this bike. In short, the Recluse is worth it. I've tested it over the past 18 months that I've had this thing, and I'll tell you, at first, I didn't like the Recluse. I felt that it felt strange, and I struggled going downhill where the bike would start to freewheel. However, you can work around that very easily just by blipping the throttle to get to re-engage. But the benefit of the Recluse is starting off from a stop, it is amazing because you don't have to modulate the clutch to when you're going slow or taking off. And if you think about the advantage of that in steep, rocky terrain where you're off camber, where the bike's sideways and you're struggling, the Recluse is a total cheat. It's like a cheat code for dirt biking. I cannot recommend it enough. Even though at first I was skeptical of it because I'm like, this is kind of different. Man, now I really can't, I don't even want to ride a dual sport bike without it. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. So my model is the Core EXP 3.0. That's the one I have, and they have some other models, but I think that's the one that most people get. Let's talk about the seat. The stock seat that comes on these KTMs is notoriously painful. It's like a razor blade up the backside of your bum. I'm telling you, got to change that out if you ever want to sit down on your bike. If you're so hardcore that you never sit down, then that's great, but I'm not that hardcore. I do need to sit on the highway and in some parts on the fire roads. The Comfort XL is the one that I chose, and wow, that's a transformation. Now I can sit on this bike and do an all-day ride. It's not like riding a Goldwing, obviously, but it's tolerable. It makes the bike tolerable to do all-day dual sport rides on. Highly recommend that. It comes as a complete seat. I guess you can also get kits where you staple it on yourself. I don't bother with that. I just buy the complete seat, one bolt, put it on, and then go riding. Foot pegs. The factory foot pegs on these bikes are not bad, but I'm used to having a little bit wider foot peg from the adventure bike world. Plus, I'm a size 12 and I wear a Tech 7 off-road boots from Alpenstars. And I like these wide adventure foot pegs. These are actually the adventure model of the Fast Company Impact foot pegs. The cool trick that these foot pegs have is they have the elastomer in between two surfaces, so it's a vibration isolator. It sounds like a gimmick, I know, but it actually works. I've tested this back and forth with the factory pegs, and on the factory pegs I feel the buzz coming through into my feet, through my boots, and on these I really can't feel the buzz. If I press down really hard, I can kind of feel that buzz again if I kind of press through that elastomer, but if I'm riding normally, especially sitting down, like on the highway for instance, man, it really takes the buzz out. Plus it takes out the shocks from the trail. You wouldn't think it would do much, but it actually does. And I'm not just saying that. I don't have an affiliation with the company, really, but man, what a great modification that was. So I can recommend those along with their fast flex bars, which we've already talked about. Let's talk about some of the engine and power mods that I've done. So traditionally, I'm not a big fan of doing mods to the engine, the intake, the exhaust, and things like that. However, I will make an exception for these motorcycles because they come so choked up from the factory due to emissions and noise regulations. If you want your KTM to run properly, to have a massive increase in horsepower and torque and rideability and no more flame outs, no more stall outs, you're gonna have to drop some coin to get it to work. I know it's unfortunate that we have to do that, but we do. So what do I have? I've tried some other systems in the past. I have the Athena GAT ECU with a map switch here on the handlebar. I've got the reeds removed from the intake. I've got an FMF exhaust system. And I think that's about it. Now, if you're gonna get this set up, I would highly recommend, and I don't have an affiliation with them at all, but just go to Moto. I think it's Mike at Moto. He knows how to set the mapping on these things up. He can tell you what you need on the phone. Super nice guy. He's the guru on these things. He'll get you sorted out. The mapping on this bike, the way this thing runs is perfection. It is so smooth, so powerful. This bike is faster than a factory 500EXC, a stock 500EXC of the same year. And I know that because that's what I had before this. I had a 2020 500EXC without any of the mods. This bike's actually faster, even though it's a 350, so imagine that. For turn signals, I talked about the integrated signals I'm using in the handguards. On the rear turn signals, because the factory ones are just going to break off or get burnt by the exhaust or break off from the trail when you hit branches and stuff, I've got a integrated flush mount signals, and I'll link below to some of those, I think, at Revzilla. Talk about sprockets and gearing. So I run on this bike, I've experimented, but I like 1450. It works amazingly well for me with some mixed riding, a little bit of highway. I've tried like 1452, and that is better on single track, but it gives up a little bit if I want to cruise at 60 down the road. I like the 1450. I run the Tusk aluminum rear sprocket in blue because I like the blue highlights, but that's bling and it doesn't really matter. But the Tusk sprocket seems to be holding up really well. I think I also have a Tusk front sprocket on here as well, but I can't really remember. But they make good stuff through their primary drive brand. Finally, one more thing I'll mention that you can't really see is the battery. So these bikes do come with a lithium battery, but I didn't find the capacity to be very good. So I went ahead and put in a anti-gravity restart battery. The restart batteries have a feature where they'll maintain a little bit of charge even if you like leave your lights on or your GPS on overnight. They'll keep a little charge in reserve. You can press a button and still start the motorcycle, because keep in mind, these bikes, unlike some of the older ones, do not come with a backup Kickstarter. That's a nice feature to have, and I have anti-gravity batteries on all my bikes, and I really, really like them. Never had a single issue with them. Great product to have. So riding the 350 on the highway, in terms of the changes that I've made, so there's a few things that really stand out. One is the Seat Concepts Comfort XL seat makes a huge difference in the seating comfort. The stock seat was like having a razor blade up your bum. It was just horrendous. So that's a huge improvement. In terms of vibration, the motor's kind of buzzy on these at around 55, 60 miles an hour with the dirt bike style gearing that you have. So the pillow top grips, the flex bars with the vibration isolators, the BRP mount with the Scott stabilizer, the wheel weights to keep the wheels in balance. But the big things for me, I think, yeah, reducing the handlebar buzz with the stuff I've done there, and also the foot pegs. I don't feel really any buzz through the foot pegs anymore like I used to, now that I put on these impact foot pegs with the vibration isolation in them. They really do work. I know it seems like a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. I also have these on my 890 and I love them. It's never going to be, you know, a great highway bike, but actually for a 350 dual sport that's just capable on single track, this thing's not bad. Here at 60 miles an hour on the highway, it's really not so bad. And even these Recon tires, although they're not technically legal for highway use, they actually feel just fine on the highway. So what if you want to ride some just yeah, I love this bike so much. Oh yeah, oh, this thing is hilarious. It's so good. So the suspension mods that I've done, these Recon tires hook up great. The flex bars are absorbing all these rocks and stuff. Man, these tires are like Velcro on this dirt, I'm telling you. This bike is so much fun to ride. So yeah, all the mods, you know, they really improve the bike as a, if you're just going to do a lot of two-track, Jeep roads, fire roads, these mods are not wasted on that. Although, you know, of course, I take adventure bikes on this road all the time. It's obviously not a challenging trail at all. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with having the capability, because when you see a cool single track coming off a road like this, you can take it, right, and go wherever you want. Also, the Recluse clutch, I think I'm in like third gear, and it kind of gives you that rubber band feeling, like you can lug it down kind of low, and then it kind of just, it's like having traction control. It feeds into power so smoothly. Man, the Recluse is really, really nice to have. This is really not what it's designed for. Like, you know, this kind of riding is designed for like really technical single track where the lack of stalling helps, and, you know, getting started on hills and things like that. But it still helps you even on something like this. This trail looks pretty insane. I think we should take it, right? I mean, what the heck? We're on a 350. So let's see kind of how we do here. So with the Recluse clutch, it's so nice because, wow, this is really
really gnarly. Whew. That's not even a road right there, folks. So this is really what this bike's designed for, is stuff like this. These Recon tires, they feel like Velcro because they grip on these rocks so well. And that combined with this Recluse clutch, man, I love this clutch. When I first had this bike with the clutch, I didn't really like it, but I love it now. I'm just so spoiled by it. It's also useful for getting the bike turned around because you just have no clutch to worry about. You just feed into power with the throttle. See, I would never take my big adventure bikes out on stuff like this. These even really aren't even roads or trails or anything. I'm just really bushwhacking it now. Let's go see where that goes. Oh, it goes back to the main road. I see. God, this thing's fast. For a 350, the Athena, the ECU, and the changes to the pipe and all that stuff. I mean, this thing rides more like a 450 in terms of the power. Oh my God, this thing's fun. Yeah, boy! Woo! Tires stick like glue, man. Woo! No! Ha! Hit it! Well, I had so much fun. I'm gonna hit this trail again. Whoa, okay. Don't want to go in that. Let's go up here. Well, somebody's handguard is there. Yeah, boy. Oh, this is sketchy. This is where these hybrid type tires really come into their own. No problem getting through stuff like this.
All right, I think that's about it. I've really tried my best to think of everything, and I had some notes here so I wouldn't forget. If you have questions, comments, concerns, if I missed something, put that down below and I'll do my best to get back to you, or shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, or send me an email. But I think I've covered everything. Now, I know the cost for all this, including the bike, can get out of control. It can get out of hand. But it's not really my business to say how much money you have or how much money you're willing to spend. I'm just telling you that I've tested this stuff, and if you want the very best there is, I really think this is it. And everything that I put on here, 99% of the stuff on here serves a purpose and is functional and made me enjoy this bike more and be able to use it in the way I want to use it. So I'm a huge fan of it. This is the best dual sport motorcycle I've ever ridden by a large margin, and I love this bike so much. I wish I had more time to go ride it. Again, please use my links below if you're going to purchase any of this stuff. I really, really appreciate it, and you'll be supporting great companies that I've been affiliated with for years, like Revzilla, Rocky Mountain, Moscow Moto, and others. So thank you so much for watching. Please ride safe, and I'll see you out there.